In person and virtual, please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thanks everyone for making an effort to connect to us in these trying times here. We don't have any public, so we're going to move right on to the corrections to the agenda or consent calendar. Anybody online out there on the phone have anything on that category?
I'm being told that no one on Zoom can hear me. I'm here.
Nope.
You can't hear, okay?
Nope.
They don't have any objection. They don't have any.
Oh, no objections, right? Okay.
I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Are we doing? Did you do a correction though, Randy?
This is the.
That's the action.
Well, actually, that's true. I heard Chris say he had no corrections. Nick and Jim, do you have any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar?
Oh. No.
Okay, so we have a motion by Kelly and seconded by me for the adoption of the consent calendar. So I'm sure Melanie's going to do a roll call vote.
So, okay, Director Cephalo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan? Yes. Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we got a 5-0 vote on that. Thank you all.
Passes unanimously. And we just need to make the change to the action item there.
Oh, that's true. I should have mentioned that. We are going to pull 6D on the action items. I was going to make sure we got there, but just to let you know, they're a very inexpensive mask, and John went ahead and made the correct decision and did it under his authority, so we pulled that. Which brings us to 6A.
Excellent.
And I believe Julie's going to give us a presentation on that. Well, first of all, do you want to talk first, or do you want to do a public hearing first? Why don't you talk a little first?
Okay.
Then we'll do a public hearing.
All right. All right, so we're here today to hold a public hearing to find the secondary clarifier number 3 rehab project as substantially complex. And this is required action under the code that we hold this public hearing if we intend to increase the retention limit from the standard of 5% to anything higher. Our proposal is that we increase it to a 10% retention. And we have a list of standard findings.
I can hear it. Anybody out there can hear?
Is that Jan?
It's not too easy, but it's possible.
Can you maybe give me a mic there?
Now I can, yes. Are you just hearing me? I need a speaker and mute, so I don't hear anybody else talking.
I'm talking right now. Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing me.
On Zoom.
I just sent a chat to everybody on the Zoom to join the building.
Shannon, this is Trevor Coolidge. I can hear audio on the O2 meeting, but I can only hear non-participants on Zoom.
So,
Okay.
everybody to join the
Trying to find out what's going on.
so they can get the audio.
Thanks.
Okay, if you guys can hear me, go to meeting and you get the audio. This is fun.
The message I got was to sign on to GoToMeeting there for everybody. I'm going to log off now.
I'll start over with me.
Yeah.
Looks like people are dropping the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Did you know I needed to bring your plug? In case you're wondering, we're just giving everybody a chance to relog on, so we'll get going here in a second.
No, I've got it now with the audio and video. I can see the back of Julie right now. That color is a good color, I'm just going to say.
It's good for camera.
At least he didn't. He had a perfect chance for a cheap shot there, and he didn't get it, which is very good.
It's my backside.
Yes. Is that Nick?
That's Nick.
He's on Zoom?
Nick, are you on Zoom, or are you in go to meeting?
Well, no, I called in going to go to meeting, so I used that audio, and then I used the video, and I linked into Zoom as well on my phone.
So there you go. Okay. Jewel. Okay, why don't you give it another shot, Julie?
All right. Was that you, Shannon? You're there?
I'm on audio now.
Okay, great. All right, so agenda item 6A, we need to hold a public meeting in order to find secondary clarifier number 3 project as substantially complex. This is required if we want to hold retention in excess of 5%. Our proposal is for this project, because of the complexity of the project, that we withhold 10%. And we have a list of standard findings that we draw from when we're making a finding of complexity. For this particular project, there will be 2 or more trades or subcontractors involved in the construction of the project. The project also involves instrumentation, controls, and mechanical equipment, which are not standard items on typical district projects. And the construction schedule is of significant concern, in part because of the compressed construction season within the Lake Tahoe Basin. So those are our formal findings for this, but I also want to reiterate that the secondary clarifiers of the wastewater treatment plant are in dire condition. There is concern that catastrophic failure of 1 or more of those clarifiers could occur at any time. And so until we are able to rehab the first of these clarifiers and feel confident in its performance, we're at real risk of catastrophic failure, especially during this first construction phase, minimizing our ability to treat water adequately and be in compliance with our waste discharge requirements. So, beyond sort of the formal findings of complexity, there's this larger concern that's been expressed by the staff about the condition of these facilities. So, with that, do you want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. And did you want to talk about the project now?
Yeah, so the project itself will replace the mechanical mechanisms at the clarifiers. It'll perform structural rehabilitation and seismic rehabilitation of these 50-plus-year-old concrete structures. It'll also replace the electrical components of the system. And there's a fairly substantial portion of underground work, replacing the piping to and from the clarifier itself, and replacing the foundation for the drives. This particular project, we are proceeding on a short timeline. The project will bid this summer. There's a very long lead time for the mechanical elements of the project. And so that'll give the contractor about 9 months to procure the mechanisms, and then it'll actually be constructed in 2021. We're proceeding using only district capital funding. There's no outside funding source proposed for this project. And we separated it from the other 2 clarifiers so that we can, get this going really quickly and address those condition needs. So the other 2 we're waiting, and we will contract those separately next year, hopefully with outside funding to support the financial side of the project. Anything else?
Yeah, a much-needed project, particularly number 2, so we got to get 3 first and have something online when 2's down.
Exactly.
So, does anybody on the phone have any comments or questions on this?
I just had one question. I mean, it all seemed relatively straightforward. I just was curious is there anything I'm missing as to the 10% retention that's going to be impactful whatsoever? Just unforeseen liabilities that I may not be aware of?
Generally speaking, we have historically retained a 10% retention through our projects as a incentive to the contractor to actually complete the work. And it wasn't until I think it was something like the early teens, maybe 2012.
It's only in the past few years that
Yeah.
they changed the law to 5%. And we've always, I can't remember a project where we didn't have this special meeting and go up to 10% because of a lot of reasons, the short building season, the way that the Tahoe factor on construction and everything else.
Exactly. Exactly. And so we do still leave it to the discretion of the project manager and the engineering manager to talk at about the 50% mark to decide whether we want to stop withholding that 10% retention, which in effect would be reducing it to an overall total of 5. And so, we still have that ability to basically pull back if the contractor is performing to the district's satisfaction.
Does that work for you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it all makes sense to me. I just figured check.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions on this, I think we can close the public meeting at this time. Seems there's no public here chiming in, either in person or online. And then we can have Julie read us what she actually wants.
Excellent. So we have completed part 1 of the action, so I'll move on to 2, which is pursuant to the facts, find the secondary clarifier number 3 rehabilitation project substantially complex and require a 10% retention limit. And part 3, also authorize staff to advertise for construction bids.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Director Seflo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next up's the 2020 Diamond Ditch Inverted Siphon Lining Project. So this has got a little backstory.
There's a little bit of backstory. You may recall that last fall we had initially bid the cast-in-place pipe rehabilitation of the inverted siphon out of Diamond Valley Ranch. We received no bids when we had that advertisement. So we, over the winter, revisited the requirements of the project. We expanded the scope of the rehab that we were looking for to include spray-in-place pipe as well, which is a really robust coating that they would come in and do on the inside. So we allowed bidders to propose either a cast-in-place pipe, which is like this sock with epoxy impregnation that lines the inside, or a spray liner. After holding site visits and receiving bids, we this time around did receive 1 bid, but it was for CIPP. So even after our outreach, the SIPP industry, nobody decided to bid the SIPP solution. We received that 1 bid and found that it had a number of deviations from the bidding requirements. They did not sign the bid bond, they did not sign the bid, and they also didn't give us the product information that was required as part of the bid submittal so that we could review it in advance and make sure they were in compliance with our requirements. So with all of those very substantial anomalies, we want to recommend that we actually reject that bid. However, because we have already now been out to advertise twice for this project, and after those 2 advertisements, we received a sealed bid, we would like to request permission to enter negotiations with the bidder and return with a contract for your approval without having to advertise again. One of the things that we want to bring to your attention as we're negotiating a future contract is that in light of COVID-19 response, we really don't want anyone at Diamond Valley Ranch working until shelter-in-place restrictions have been lifted. We've had conversations with Jim Hilton, the manager of DDR, and he agrees that's appropriate. We do have a second siphon at Diamond Valley Ranch that we can rely on through the season. So our plan.
So just curious,
Yeah.
why is that? Because construction is exempt,
Yeah,
and that's a pretty remote, open area. Just curious.
yeah. Trevor, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the
Yes, I'm not sure if you can hear me well.
Oh, we can hear you.
Great.
Can you answer Randy's question about your conversation with Jim about why?
So, sorry, Randy. There were 2 items. One was Jim currently has his staff at Diamond Valley Ranch pretty well staggered with different start times,
Okay.
and they stay largely isolated. And then the other element was just out of an abundance of caution was bringing in a contractor from the Bay Area and the potential of them bringing something to our staff. We'd also need engineering staff out there for inspection, and there'd also be the need to house them and potentially bring people into the community.
Okay.
And based on this,
Got it, yeah.
not feeling like a critical project.
Thank you, Trevor.
Trevor, thanks, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I point out one more thing?
Sure.
The Diamond Valley Ranch, the siphon, as Julie pointed out, is redundant with an existing siphon that was constructed much later and is in much better shape. The siphon that we would be lining had a leak on it previously and was actually repaired with a band. So in the event that we did need to use this, right now it is isolated, so it's not in service. If for some reason we had a problem with the functioning siphon, we could switch back over to this this one that has been damaged and repaired if we needed to. So it would function. We're just not using it. Again, currently we're not using it for concern of additional leaks appearing. I just wanted to add that comment. Thanks.
Julie touched on that briefly.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Shannon. So it's the intention as we go through the negotiation of contract that we will make a contingent upon the lifting of the shelter in place and not allow them to start until that has been lifted. And talking with Trevor before the meeting, it sounds like, if, as long as they get out there by October or November, we still expect that we would get the repair made before this coming winter. And from an operational standpoint, I think that satisfies everybody's concerns. So, anyway, that's kind of the situation in a nutshell. So, are there any other questions about this?
So have we worked with Christensen Brothers before?
I don't believe so. Trevor?
No, we have not, and this would be the largest CIP project we've ever done. Even though it's relatively small, it's much larger than what we normally do, which are spot repairs. And those contractors that we've worked with before don't scale up to this size of line.
And the reason I ask is just on the kind of the level of the response they had provided. I mean, do you have a sense, kind of industry-wide, what the reputation's like?
So we did vet them a bit. They've been in business for a while. We had minimum experience requirements, and then the supplemental information they gave us, they are using reputable materials that are known in the industry. They're listed as preferred materials by Tahoe City PUD. So we had pretty good confidence. They've also completed work on an inverted siphon before, which are relatively rare.
Cool. Thank you.
And I assume in your negotiations, if you feel it's going off the rails, you can always pull the plug.
Exactly, and because we do anticipate we're going to have more CIPP rehabilitation projects in the future, this does give us a good opportunity to kind of work out those kinks with an individual contractor and really flesh out, what are the requirements that we're asking for that really make sense, and which ones, could we do without. So, yeah, we'll use this opportunity to the best of our advantage to help inform us for the future too.
Okay, I think we're discussed out here.
I am happy to read the action.
Sure.
All right, I'm asking that you reject the bid of Christian Brothers Lining Company due to significant deficiencies in its bid for the 2020 Diamond Ditch Inverted Siphon Lining Project. Find that rebidding the 2020 Diamond Ditch Inverted Siphon Lining Project would not be useful, desirable, or beneficial to the district, and authorize the district to negotiate and enter into a contract for the 2020 Diamond Ditch Inverted Siphon Lining Project with Christian Brothers Lining Company consistent with the requirements of the bid documents and Christian Brothers Lining Company's bid.
So moved.
I'll second that. Okay, we're ready for a vote. Director Cepalo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
All right, 2020 Blue Gas Pump Station Improvement Project.
All right, one more fun one. All right, so I'm here today to present to you the results of our bid opening for the Luther Pass Pump Station Improvements Project and to make a recommendation for award. Last week, we received 4 bids. This was on Thursday at 1 o'clock after we extended the bid period by a day. We received 4 bids for the project. The highest bid was $2,463,500 from Hayne Constructors. The low bid was $1,829,537. That's from TNT Industrial. After reviewing TNT Industrial's bid, there were a few deviations that we noted, and one of them is significant enough to warrant some discussion here today. And it is as relates to their bid bond. So we are required to receive a bid bond from all bidders as a matter of law, and our contract documents require that bid bond be provided to us in its original form in advance of the bid opening. Sometimes this is a hang-up for new bidders with our projects. TNT Industrial has not bid our projects in quite a while, and so we were a little concerned that these new bidders that are generally the tank bidders would miss that. So that's really why we extended the bid period by a day, was to give the bidders more time in light of COVID-19 and courier services maybe not guaranteeing delivery in a timely fashion. We said, okay, we're going to give them as much time as possible. So we postponed the bid by a day, and sure enough, of the 4 bids that we received, only 2 of them actually had delivered their bid bonds by the bid opening last Thursday. So that would happen to be bids 3 and 4. The 2 low bidders did not. We when we had the bid opening, because it couldn't be public in person, we did similar to what we're doing now with an audio conference. And the two low bids that are both based in the Central Coast, they attended that. So we actually asked them about their bid bonds. And TNT Industrial, the low bidder, they said, well, ours was in the mail. We shipped it on Tuesday. The second low bidder said we were supposed to turn in our bid bond. So there's obviously a little confusion and disconnect there. So that's how this will work, trying to locate the original bid bond from the low bidder. We were in contact both with TNT Industrial and Golden State overnight, the courier. And at the end of the day, we were able to confirm that yes, TNT Industrial had shipped out their bid bonds on Tuesday, that it was intended for delivery on Wednesday, and through a series of missteps and mishaps on the part of Golden State overnight, it actually didn't arrive until Monday. So
It was supposed to arrive Thursday, remember that?
it was originally supposed to be in our hands on Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then Friday, and then we found out. And so the tracking, anyway, a comedy of errors, really. And so, in light of COVID-19, and because it's no fault of the low bidder, and the fact that the rest of the bid was in really good shape, there were some minor deviations that we can readily waive. It's our recommendation that we go ahead and waive this anomaly that we didn't have the original interconnect. And I do want to also point out that TNC Surety also provided us with a letter confirming for us that the bid bond was in fact valid and in place at the time of the bid opening. So in any case, when we received the bid bond on Monday, everything was in order with it. It met all the requirements. It had the raised seals that are required in the notary and all that. So we feel very comfortable that they met the requirements for providing that bid bond. So after that sort of long-winded explanation of how we got here, just to remind you a little bit of what this project includes, we will be making modifications to the beeline in the vicinity of the Luther House pump station, adding some valving and tie-in piping to tank number 1. It'll allow us more flexibility for draining the beeline in the future. And it'll allow us more flexibility to not have to drain the beeline when we're working on the tanks in the future. And so that's one piece of the project. And then the second piece of the project is replacing tank number 2. You've heard us talk about that quite often over the last couple of years about the failing rafters. And so this will replace that failed steel tank with a welded steel shell and an aluminum dome roof and aluminum support structure. So are there any questions?
No, this is the one you brought us a lot of pictures when you first discovered the failure, so I think we're pretty familiar with what's going on here.
Very good. So,
Yeah, thank you very much for the supplemental memo as well.
oh, you're welcome. Sometimes those things get a little tricky to explain, especially when you're dealing with so many missteps through the process. So, would you like me to read the requested action?
You know what? I think I can handle this one.
Okay.
It's one line. I move we award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Wow.
Which is TNT Industrial. It's a little bit more, Gary, right?
Well, actually,
yeah, that's not. We need to add a little bit more to that regarding the.
well, Gary, it's not listed in both the agenda and in the detailed part of the agenda. So that's the only motion that you guys offered. So that's it.
Okay, maybe I can improvise for you then. We are asking that you waive the deviations from the bid and award the contract for the 2020 Luther Pass Pump Station Improvement Projects to T&T Industrial in the amount $1,829,537. Did I cover it all, Gary?
Along with what I said about the lowest responsible bidder.
I got that in there. Right.
So moved.
I'll second that. Okay. We are ready for a vote. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Paul, you got a microphone over there? You gotta come up.
I think they can hear me through the one in the ceiling.
Can everybody hear Paul?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, he's gonna talk about our 2021 budget fiscal year workshop.
Yes, it's amazing how much can change in such a short period of time, because it was less than a month ago that staff and the finance committee met and went over the proposed 2021 budget. And at the conclusion of that meeting, the committee, as well as staff, were fully committed to recommend the proposed budget as prepared with the associated rate increases to the water and sewer funds. Obviously, since then, there's been a major local economic impact due to COVID-19. So today, we would like to have a discussion and are seeking your comments, your thoughts, and possible direction to better prepare for the workshop, which is currently planned for the week of April 27th. Due to the unknown duration of the economic impact, I know that providing direction right now may be difficult, but I do have a few thoughts that may help facilitate the discussion between the board members.
You know, Paul, can I interrupt for a second?
Oh.
When Julie was talking up there, we didn't get this little feedback.
Oh, I'm not even hearing it because I'm talking.
Yeah, it's some microphone in this room is picking up what you're saying and sending it back on a delay.
Okay.
And it's, I don't know.
Still doing it.
It's
Well, up until you said something, Paul was very clear.
okay. Actually, try it again, Paul, because I think that's
Okay.
Yeah, now you're good.
Did everybody catch the briefing that I gave a couple minutes ago?
Yes. Yeah, you were loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I was saying, I do have a few thoughts that may help facilitate the discussion. Like I said, because providing direction right now may be difficult due to the unknown duration of the economic impact. So one thing that we could do just to prepare for the workshop is just leave the budget document as is for now, but be prepared for lower or no rate increases. Prepare to describe to the board, obviously, what that would mean, what a 0% rate increase scenario would mean to both the water and sewer funds, the impact to the CIP. And in other scenarios, possibly prepare for a delay in the rate increase adoption. Instead of adopting in July, move it out to October, or 3 months later out to January. That's a possibility also.
You didn't know that was on the table.
Yeah, we could adopt a rate increase any time of the year.
Yeah. Actually, those were my thoughts. I was thinking of like a parallel track or a 3-track discussion that we could have, because we can't put this, what would be the latest we could put this meeting off to, you would think?
The workshop?
Yeah.
I would say no later than the first board meeting in May, because we adopt the budget the second meeting of May.
Right, so I would say before the first board meeting in May, probably.
Which is when it's currently scheduled now.
Yeah.
Because it's scheduled, well, I shouldn't say that, it's not scheduled now. We're planning to have it scheduled the week of April 27th, which is the last
Okay.
last week.
Okay. Well, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I kind of think that's probably as late as we can do it, and more time will pass between now and then, and hopefully the picture will become more clear, not more muddy. But at that time, we can discuss, I kind of like the way Paul's thinking, maybe a 2-track or 3-track approach to where we kind of play it by ear.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I think we can put the workshop off to the last possible day. And I think running those 3 tracks, and conceivably another track where instead of the 6%, you look at 3%, just to have as many options as possible, and then put the workshop off until the last possible day.
Chris, you had something?
Yeah, the unknowns are that when this is going to end. However, unfortunately, I think there's already some long-term damage to our economy there. And, with that said, I believe that Paul should, you guys can make up your own minds, but I think Paul should actually have a 0 rate increase proposal for us and then outline those, the budget based on a 0 rate increase. I also think, based on the economy that we're going to be facing, most likely through the fall, into the fall, I would say, we should probably get cracking on that monthly billing process because that may help. I don't know. Yeah, that's where I would go. This may actually go deeper, but we don't know that yet. So, like you said, my most unfavorite saying is we might have to kick the can down the road, but we might be kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, this is Jim. I don't think we're going to know much more in the next month, by 1st of May, to make any decisions. I think we ought to just put it off for, say, 3 months, plan for that.
Delay the rate increases?
Let's just delay the whole budget process.
We need to have a budget adopted before the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st.
I was saying, so basically what that would mean, Jim, is, if you correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, we would go with a 0 budget, but we could revisit it in September, October if we thought that was better, which is accomplishing the same thing as what you were thinking, Jim.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, the problem is that the economy, it will end up compounding into further problems. I think what you're going to find is that people will have difficulty paying rent if they can at all. Even if they put it off for 2 or 3 months and then have to make it back, it's going to cause a hardship for the rentals, which will then cause a hardship for landowners and property owners. And every month that goes on, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to find that, I just heard the concert series is in the process of being selectively canceled. Vacation homes are banned from being used. That all compounds itself into a long-term issue. So putting a rate increase in place 3 months after that is kind of an insult to injury, if you want to know the truth. And I don't know what we have to do to accomplish that, but that's what I'm going to be pushing for.
I think
and that's at the very least. That's at the very least.
I think to Chris's point, I like Jim's suggestion of leaving the door open, but I think just the economic realities that we're going to face is a nation, the globe, and specifically our tourist economy locally is going to be, the ripple effects aren't going to end in August or May or June or October. This is going to go on forever, and I don't think we could raise rates on people in this reality in October unless something dramatic happened, but I don't think that's going to take place.
I agree with Nick on that.
So here's the thing, do we want to even have a budget workshop to discuss all this stuff in a little more detail? Let's see, that would be we would still be under the mandatory issues we are now at that time. So it would still be a teleconference thing. Or should we just push it back and assume we're gonna do 0 and then have a budget meeting when we can actually meet in person and talk about these things.
When's the first meeting in May?
Second.
The second? I mean, it's possible we could do it on the same day. That'd be kind of a long day, but we could. And that's beyond the shelter-in-place date, if people want to.
For now.
attend.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say the 2nd or the 7th?
Second.
2nd's the 7th.
Let me look at the calendar.
Oh, I have 2019.
Yeah, see, they did that trick on me too. Jeff.
The 7th.
It's the 7th. So maybe you could see we have it Tuesday the 5th. Yeah. Just throwing that out there. And hopefully this shelter in place thing will be gone. We can actually, because these teleconference things, they work, but they aren't as nice.
It would be a difficult budget workshop.
Yeah.
Do you have to squeeze a public meeting in before?
We're not required to.
You're not required to.
The
The
workshop.
workshop would be open to the public. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's a good option to keep the budget workshop in May as a possibility. But to something Randy said earlier, I mean, what conceivably could happen on Earth that would change our calculus from where we're sitting today? That we would contemplate raising rates on a normal fashion. That reality doesn't exist.
I don't think so either. Honestly, I think the damage is being done as we speak.
So what are you guys suggesting there? Are you suggesting we should just not even do a workshop? Or how, because we have to adopt something in May. So what I'm suggesting is we have a workshop. It could be a super short one. It could be that, you know what, we don't see a light at the end of this tunnel yet. We're gonna go with 0. That's done in May. And then depending on, who knows, maybe some brilliant scientist somewhere creates a vaccine and this thing is over with quicker than we think. So we can revisit.
Yeah, but over doesn't mean over.
Well, yeah, but
Over just means we get back to normal.
right. But if we have the virus behind us, then we can start looking at the economics only.
Well, we're looking at best case. I mean, honestly, if this deepens worse than we can foresee, we may have to make further changes depending on how this goes. I mean, it's always better to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best, and that's what we should be doing.
Okay, so do you guys want to meet on Tuesday the 5th, or do you want to just put this off? Because we have to have a vote on the meeting the 7th, right? No, the 21st.
Yeah.
We have to have a vote on the 21st on our budget.
And we can do that.
Well, we should sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think we do.
That's why I was thinking of the 5th, because it's theoretically past our current shelter-in-place date, and it's a couple days before a board meeting, which I guess we could have it after the board meeting, but I just thought, it'd be a good time to get an extra board meeting ahead, Let's tentatively schedule for that.
I think that works.
And then see, today's the 2nd. We've got another board meeting next week, or 2 weeks from now. So if things dramatically change, we'll revisit that meeting the 5th. But that's what I'd like to go with for now. Okay, doesn't mean it's cast in stone.
And I heard some thoughts about developing some other scenarios for that workshop.
That's true. It's going to take some staff.
So that'll take some time. Is that the direction to start preparing for small scenarios for this workshop?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, 0%.
And right now, I mean, Chris and Nick are both right. That if they flip the switch on tomorrow, we still have got issues. So I would say focus on that 0.
Yeah, that kind of was our intention, and that was our thought when we decided to bring up, like 3 or 6 months or whatever it would be.
Right. Okay, anybody else want to hammer this?
I think you're going to find. Well, one last thing. I mean, I know I said it, but no one really responded. And I know that we've been thinking about going to the monthly billing, but I really believe we should try and get that fired up as quickly as we can. It will help, because I think you're going to see a lot of delinquent payments.
You
I
might be
agree with
right.
Chris 100%.
But how
I mean, I would do anything we could conceivably. Hold on a second. I would do anything we could conceivably do to get the monthly billing up now. I was under the impression we were going to have that up by summer when we started talking about this months ago. So anything we can do to expedite that, we need to do. I think Chris is completely right.
Yeah, we'll get together and discuss it, but the plan was for it to take effect January 2021, after our new billing system was implemented, which of course, due to the COVID virus, is now being delayed for 3 months, the implementation of that. And so it's currently planned for implementation in July. No, July 2020, yeah. And that's what we were thinking, planning the monthly billing 6 months after that, after we've had a couple of quarterly billings go out in the new system to get bugs worked out. But we will get together and talk about it.
Well, I think the next tell will be whether or not.
Forward. Please go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I was just going to say that the tell will be coming in the next 30 days when you find out what delinquent payments are coming out or what's not getting paid. I mean, we'll know in the next 3 months anyway. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Nick.
Yeah, no worries. And I would say that I think, I appreciate the desire to work out all the bugs, but if there's one thing this pandemic has shown me is that we've just been kind of marshaling forward and, sorting out bugs as we move forward. And so our desire to want to sort out bugs, I don't think should supersede our ability to get monthly billing to people that are in dire fiscal straits.
At this point, too, you can always pay a partial payment, correct?
People can always pay partial payments, yes.
So they can pay it in thirds if they want.
They absolutely can.
So maybe that's a focus if you can't get it up and running, have really get the word out there. Okay, look, you don't have to pay the whole thing. We'll always take a partial
True,
payment.
and we have posted that information on our website, but we could do further public outreach to get that message out there. Really hammer it home right now.
Right,
Let people
right.
know. Because there is no way we can implement the new billing system any faster than the company who sold it to can get here to do it for us, which is
And they aren't going to get here till
till July. So we would have to somehow develop a way to do it in the current billing system, and that's what we have to discuss. I'm not sure if that's possible.
And so maybe that's just the way to go. Just start, getting that word out there right now. That you can make partial payments.
I think we amplify that, you pay electronic recon, that we pay on a monthly basis, but that's a challenge for a lot of the customers, but we will, we'll do some more outreach on that.
Yeah. And we will also.
And I think the outreach has to be more than something on the website. I mean, I'm talking bold letters on when people get their bills. It has to be very, very obvious, not some obscure print. It has to be, anyone can see it. Anyone understands it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have a space on the top of the bill. We'll definitely do that, and then we can reach out by email to all those customers that have email accounts.
Yeah.
Which I think is about a third of all customers.
I believe so. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Paul, I have a question. Yesterday was the end of the quarter, right? Do we have a sense right now whether there were more delinquent payments than normal? Or is it too soon?
It's too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'll know that when we start processing the bills.
I was talking to somebody in the property management business a couple days ago, and I'm talking long-term, not vacation rentals. And so far, everybody's been paying their rents, but this was 2 days ago, and he said, I don't know what's going to happen within the next week on this thing, so
Yeah,
we actually see.
we haven't had a lot of phone calls of people talking about it. We've had a couple property owners, like multifamily type property owners, calling and saying, I know that some of my tenants are not going to be able to pay rent, so I'm just letting you know I'm not going to be able to pay the water bill. So we said, okay, well, we've noticed the community that late fees are waived, so you don't have to worry about that, and we definitely can set up payment plans.
Okay, I think you have your direction, Paul.
Yes. Thank you.
Payment claims.
I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,081,578.01.
So, second?
Okay, we'll vote. Director Sutherland?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
This is Gary. I had one request.
Sure.
I had, I think I misunderstood one of John's emails earlier today, and I think we should go ahead and consider item 6D, because while John's authority probably has the authority under his being general manager and under the response plan to COVID-19, I think it's important that this one actually be considered because of the findings the board's making regarding this not being a gift to public funds.
Okay, Gary, we can talk about that. It's in the description, and I read that, and I felt that whoever wrote that, I'm sure with your input, did a pretty good job of saying, you know, because this is to the public, for the public good, it didn't really fall under that category. Was there some kind of other circumstances that you felt that it might fall in that category?
No, just that's what's in the write-up.
Okay. So do you want us to have a motion and vote on this then?
Yeah, I think that would be best. And my apologies, John.
Okay. Does anybody on the phone there have any questions about this? Basically, what it is in a nutshell, we've actually got some extra. We've got some extra P95 masks that we think we've got a different type of mask we think will cover us, and we thought it'd be in the public good just to give them to Martin, and so that's the whole motion. We just went over the gift of public funds concern, which I don't think is a concern for the reasons I just mentioned. So we will vote on this, and here's the motion. Number one. We find that the South Tahoe Public Utility District's procurement of N95 and P95 protective masks, Barton Hospital Foundation will serve as an important public purpose by protecting Barton Memorial Hospital's healthcare. Oh, that's an interesting space in the wrong spot. Healthcare workers to enable them to continue providing healthcare services to the general public, including district employees, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Number two, ratify the South Tahoe PUD's procurement of N95 and P95 masks to the Barton Hospital Foundation, and number three, authorize the district's procurement of P95 protective masks to Barton Hospital Foundation as needed.
I'll second that.
Okay. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Okay. I don't know if we've been able to have committee meetings, but I'm going to ask if there's any ad hoc or standing committee reports. As I thought. And I'm not so sure about board member reports. Anybody got any reports from their sequestered house on what's good on Netflix or something, anything like that?
Me and my cat are bonding much more now than we ever have before.
So has anybody resisted the urge to watch Tiger King?
Yes.
I know, it's a train wreck, I know. Okay, so I'm assuming there's no board member reports. So how about,
I really want to commend
go ahead, Nick.
and John for his leadership. I want to commend John for his leadership during this time, and I think looking at the mask item we just voted on is a real example of John's leadership and how he's been moving for the direction. I just want to have that noted because I think in these times you see leadership all over the spectrum, and you know what we're doing at the district is phenomenal, and I just really want to recognize everyone for the work they've been doing.
Thanks, Nick. It's been a solid team effort for sure.
That's a good point, Nick. Thanks for bringing that up. And Kelly, I'm guessing nothing's happened with the Illinois County Water Agency, has it?
I don't know, I'm assuming we're having a meeting next week.
Well, as I know, there's,
We haven't heard
Are you
otherwise.
gonna
next Wednesday.
Maybe you guys could do it over, like, this is?
Maybe call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't heard yet. As far as
Yeah.
I know, it's still on for next Wednesday, and I would expect the option to call in.
Yeah, the agenda usually comes out tomorrow.
Right.
Friday, important.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it's been a little quiet out there. We submitted our next year's cost share projects about a month ago. We haven't really heard back, so maybe need to set up a conference call with Ken and Rick, or maybe we'll talk to them next Wednesday. And as you know, as the board knows, we are working on ways to improve that process.
Okay, now it's time for John's report, so.
Okay, I'll be talking about staffing and our new favorite, COVID-19. Staffing, I have 4 updates today. Really a challenging time for recruiting. Interesting time, but in engineering, we have 2 new startups. Our senior engineer and limited term engineer both started on Tuesday, correct?
Yeah, I don't recommend.
From home?
Yeah. Trying to start 2 people on the same day in different positions during the middle of a pandemic. It's challenging, so at least but they're doing a great job getting settled in, so.
Yeah, that wasn't in Liz's HR plan
Right.
6 months ago. But yeah, thanks for bringing them forward, and we decided not to bring them to the board meeting today. We'll bring them in, hopefully to the board in the near future. Next, underground repair water worker. That advertisement closed last week. We got 18 applications. We're currently reviewing those applications. We'll put this process on hold for, I would say, at least 30 days, and then consider interviews after that time. Similarly, recruitment for the 2 heavy maintenance positions are also on hold. And then finally, we are still recruiting seasonal workers through Blue Ribbon in anticipation of the upcoming field season. But again, with a delayed starting date yet to be determined. And these attempts include people that operate and check valves and hydrants for the summer. So we're really anxious to get that work going. But we will see. And so next we'll talk a little bit about COVID-19. I've been keeping the board updated with our plan changes and informational emails. Hopefully it's not too much, and certainly if you want questions or clarifications, please give me a call. And I'll probably be sending out another one tomorrow, it looks like. And before, Melanie, would you like to give the board an update on our
Sure.
COVID cases?
Absolutely. So this is something we've been doing. We've been meeting each morning, a group of us, and this is information we've been reviewing. So in terms of the state of California, we have 2,030 confirmed cases with 216 deaths at this point. El Dorado County has 18 confirmed cases, 0 deaths. Douglas County has 6 cases, 0 deaths. Washoe County, 163 cases with 4 deaths. Placer County, 90 cases, 2 deaths, and Alpine County, 1 case and 0 deaths. These numbers are verified on the various county websites, as well as we're looking at the Johns Hopkins site, which is updated like every second, every minute of the day. Just to give you an idea, worldwide we have 1,259 cases confirmed with 51,485 deaths, and I checked that right before we came to the board meeting, so I'm sure it's gone up by now. But and there is lag time with these numbers that we're finding, depending on where you're looking. We try to use the same sources that we're looking at each time, so that we're getting as accurate as information as possible.
Thanks, Melanie. And as you mentioned, we've got a kind of a COVID-19 team, management team that meets. We're calling in a conference call every day at 10 to go over the latest information and talk about our plan and adjustments we need to make every day. So, as I said before, it's a great team effort. We do remain at risk level 3, if you remember that plan that I rolled out about 10 days ago. I don't know. The time is going fast. We're at risk level 3. We expect to remain here for the month. Hopefully not needing to go to that final risk level 4. If we see a major outbreak in town and start losing our staff to sickness, those would be some drivers for moving to this risk level 4. That action plan at risk level 4 would include operating with minimum on-site staff to keep other workers healthy, basically preserve them so that they remain available to come in and work and keep our plan and all critical systems working. So hope not to go there, but we are prepared to do so. I think staff's been great in adjusting to these modified staffing schedules and teleworking. So many conference calls and go-to meetings. Actually working out great, I think. The IT department has been spectacular in getting so many of us set up remotely. And over here, Brian Bartlett, our Employee of the Month. So thanks, Brian, and thanks to your team. Really great effort. Looking out, our own staff remains very healthy. We had some non-COVID sicknesses lately, but actually I believe we're at full strength or near full strength in every department around the district. So, and especially in plant ops, where we really can't lose too many before it becomes problematic, all the different shifts and the 12-hour shifts and separate crews. So we continue to social distance where possible and, of course, perform all the expanded hygiene protocols. Kind of going back to the emergency item last board meeting that the board approved, we have not had any COVID-related expenditures as authorized by the board. One of the major work items this week, with the president signing the Families First legislation, this calls for extended paid leave due to sickness, to care for sick family members, and to care for children that are out of school and need their parent at home. And in fact, if you haven't seen, we just found out yesterday that the Lake Tahoe Unified School District will not be reopening for the school year. So this is a real issue for working parents that this Families First legislation will help. So in compliance with this new law, we have developed a district plan for implementation. This plan was we developed as a team. It was reviewed by the union, and we sent it out to all staff yesterday. Our plan includes, among many other things, the district's ability to cancel such leave, the family leave component, in order to maintain sufficient staff levels, if in fact we need to do so due to sickness. In order to, we perhaps need to cancel family leave, but if we need to do this with some of our employees, we've expressed to the staff that we will work with them to minimize and mitigate these impacts on them and their families in a time of crisis. So again, hope we don't have to do that. We have a plan in place to do so, and we'll work with our staff to minimize impacts. So we have a solid plan in place and a great team to execute it. And I would like to, Nick, thanks for your comments, and to the board from staff, thank you, the board, for all of your support. And not just now, for all you have done over the years, for your direction, support, and funding, for projects, equipment, for all of the resources, and for the development of our high-performance workforce. So in critical times like this, we are very well prepared for the challenges at hand. So to the board, thank you.
Good job, John. Go ahead, Jim.
Got a question, John?
Yes, sir.
John, you mentioned that we don't have a whole lot of operators that we could lose. Do you have a list of maybe recently retired operators that might be willing to come back?
We do. That's just recently come up, and the state of California, PERS, has relaxed or is relaxing some of those rules that would allow retired employees to come back and assist. And we've actually already been contacted by a retired operator, Bob Skelly. If you remember Bob, his son Chris is our IT manager. So we have been in contact with retired operators that could help us. We've also identified other staff, current staff, that could help our operations crew. These are some of our electricians, some folks from heavy maintenance, and also an operator that now works in our pumps department, Greg Smith. He was a past operator. He'd probably be the first guy we call if we start running into shortages. So we do have some backup plans, Jim.
Good. I'm glad you were thinking about those things.
Okay. Is that it for you, John? Is Shelley going to give us something? Is she on the phone?
I believe so.
Was she standing by?
I am.
Okay, Shelley, you're
Can you
on.
guys hear me?
Yes, we can, loud
All
and clear.
right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. On the last page of your board packet, you'll find a overview of the district's draft environmental policy. Over the last few months, I've been working with some staff members as well as the ops committee to flesh out the ideas of this. My goal for today is to present the concepts identified in the plan and then to get the board's feedback on how we want to move forward with this. Are there things missing? Does this align with what you would like us to do at the district? And then identify some next steps. So the goal of the environmental policy is to establish guiding principles that maximize economic performance, reduce environmental and natural resource impacts, ensure compliance with California law that's constantly changing, and also allow the district to take advantage of grants and other opportunities. If approved, the idea is that the principles identified in this plan will be implemented through everyday operations and then evaluated annually, both in our annual budget and our CIP process. A lot of the things that are identified in the plan are already being implemented. It just identifies all these efforts into one document to help us better inform decision making. So in terms of some of the impacts to district programs, for our CIP, for our capital improvement project, already we're evaluating efficiency opportunities. What's new is creating and implementing a tracking system so that we can identify where efficiencies are gained. We're currently developing this with the Civic Sparks Fellows. This also applies for the operation and maintenance. You guys know that we're always looking for opportunities to increase efficiencies, and we're also developing this new tracking tool. Most of the other aspects is more of continue what we're already doing at the district in terms of pursuing asset management programs, continuing to offer and modify our water conservation program, using software to identify and minimize water loss, continuing to recycle our water and biosolids, continuing to sustainably manage our groundwater, and looking for alternative energy options and implementing fuels reductions. I think where this plan identifies new opportunities is really continuing to look at those alternative energy sources and ways to incorporate electric vehicles. So I think the meat of this plan is on some of these questions that to be asked when we're looking at projects. Many of them we're already doing. This just further defines them. So on the economic side, it's, you know, when looking at either capital or operational projects, does it reduce operational and lifetime costs? Does it reduce or delay future rate increases? Does it prevent maintenance, repair, and emergencies? Does it add value for customers and address state requirements? And is there a business case that can be made for it? On the environmental side, you know, things to consider is, does it reduce negative impacts to the environment? Promote greater independence and emergency preparedness? Does it reduce fossil fuels, the use of fossil fuels and energy consumption? Does it increase redundancy, reliability, and resiliency? All things that are super important, and many of these that we're already looking at. And finally, on that social side of things, does it enhance civic engagement and transparency, align with community goals, enhance community health, benefit the community? Does it support the employee safety and well-being and integrate with local government nonprofits? Does it help address workforce housing, some of these, you know, bigger issues going on in our community? I think the biggest thing that will potentially come out of this environmental policy, if supported and approved by the board, is setting some goals. figuring out what environmental goals we want to set and try to implement and measure to that addresses the district's energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. So the policy right now does not identify any goals. That's something that you as a board, and I know John's been thinking about it, both working with you guys and the management team of what are some goals that we might be interested in setting. And then I think the only other change that is identified in this policy is that as we continue to evaluate and incorporate more energy efficient equipment, vehicles, procedures, that we should be providing that information to the board in our agenda items so that you guys can make educated decisions on what's the right way forward for the district. So if approved, the district staff will start incorporating these efficiency options within stat reports, when evaluating making equipment purchases, etc. So I think that is the policy itself is about 5 or 6 pages, but I really wanted to give you an overview, see what your thought was on some of these concepts, and then get your questions, suggestions, comments to figure out how to move forward. So I'll open the floor to that.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in really quickly because, as you might expect, I've been thinking about the district and a lot of these efforts I'm engaged with in other places. And so, as we've discussed before this, we don't need to rehash it. The economic realities of the district and the community and such are really unknown at this point. But I could see a very real situation, especially as we're getting more money from the state and potentially the federal government as the government becomes more involved, as it's almost certainly going to happen, that preparing and planning for sustainability, these type of different things that Shelley outlined, would be a benefit to us in that process if we're competing for dollars with other utility districts. And so where it doesn't cost us anything, I think it could put us into a good position to ideally start to get more state or federal money the further this goes on.
That's a good point, Nick.
Hey, Shelley, I was wondering if we could get your thoughts on the schedule for this moving forward. Are you wanting the board to look over this draft for 2 to 4 weeks and then start collecting board comments for revision?
Yeah, my thought is if you guys like the ideas identified in this plan, I can email it out to you following this board meeting, and we can choose a date to provide any feedback, and then I can add it to a board agenda item for approval in the future with those edits incorporated.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I why don't you go ahead and send that out to all the board and we can take a look at it.
Okay. And just because I think it's important to have a date of getting feedback on it, do you want the end of next week? Is that enough time to look at this document? And should I aim to have it on next month, the next board meeting agenda?
I think a little longer time frame would be nice.
Okay.
I don't know about the rest of the board members.
And just for clarification, the Ops Committee has already approved this draft as is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I haven't made any edits since I've shown it to the Ops Committee.
Okay. But Nick, did you and Jim actually finalize your recommendation?
Yeah, we looked at it. I think the strength of this document to some degree is its brevity, and its open nature, because if you've seen a lot of these type of plans, some of them are hundreds of pages long, cost tens of thousands of dollars and all these different things. basically what we did was, through this process, Shelley put this together, Jim and I gave a few comments, but you know, my comments and goals throughout were essentially what I outlined earlier, is that as we go forward, to have the basic frameworks and start taking the steps to take advantage of grant funding and the rest when they become available. And I think this document does a lot with putting us in that direction without boxing us in, given the unknown realities we face.
As far as the timeline, Shelley, I think everything's going to be in slow motion for the next 6 months, so I don't think we need to rush through on this. But if you send it out to the board and let us kind of go through it, I don't think we need to act as quick as the next board meeting, but I don't think, like I said, I don't think that any of the agencies that would be looking at this document or be considering for money, everything's going to be going in slow motion in the next 6 months probably.
Sounds good. Okay, well then I'll send out the draft. If you have comments, you can send them to me over the next 2 weeks. And then maybe in May I can re-bring it to the board for potential approval if there isn't a lot of suggested changes. Does that sound like the right timeline?
Sure. Unless somebody else has something different. Okay, thanks, Shelley.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, Lynn, are you out there?
Yeah, and just a little preview on this next item. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it was, the Forest Service gave me a call, the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, and they said, hey, we have some funds from our current fiscal year available for fields reduction funding, for implementation funding, and would we be interested? So, Lynn, I think it didn't take us long. I think we met with the Forest Service, I think that same week, and said, yes, we are interested. So, from there, can you take us through that process?
Sure. So originally we had a couple of projects on the list. Fuels reduction was one, and obviously we had some water infrastructure. Unfortunately, our water infrastructure projects did not rank very high, so we were not in the top 6. But the good news that came out of that meeting was they were willing to give us about $500,000 for implementation of fuels reduction on utility sites. They also had an additional $500,000 for water infrastructure. The first project on the list was Douglas County for their Cave Rock Water Fire Protection System Improvements Project, and they were pretty excited. The reason this is such great news, you guys, is we've worked years trying to get this kind of Lake Tahoe Restoration Act funding pipeline to kind of open up for us, and so it was a great meeting. I mean, we got $500,000 for water agencies throughout the Tahoe Basin to implement fuels reduction, and $500,000 for water infrastructure. So I felt like at least all of the energy we put into this for years is finally going to start paying off. Now, the $500,000 number for fuels reduction is based on some budgeting we're putting together that we're going to submit to the Forest Service and get those administration contracts going. But right now it is for Tahoe City PUD, NTPUD, and us. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to implement whatever comes out of the CTC grant we received for $251,000 to do the fuels reduction planning. So once we plan, we now have money to implement. So we've really made some strides in fuels reduction for fire protection in our community. So I wanted to share that good news with you. And then one more piece. We received news today that we were awarded an integrated regional water management grant from the Department of Water Resources. What this means to the district is $289,000 for a new water conservation program we are implementing to encourage ratepayers to fix leaks as soon as possible. The new program offers a $500 incentive toward the cost of leak repairs done within 30 days of identification. So it's a new program we're going to try to see if we can actually incentivize getting some of these leaks fixed that people may not be able to afford to fix on their own. This grant also has an additional $116,000 for admin because we are the lead for the Tahoe Sierra IRW partnership, and so the total grant award was $2,261,000. And there's 2 pieces of good news.
Thank you, and great job.
Thank you for the good news.
Wow. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say fantastic. Good news is more appreciated now than ever. So congratulations on the fuels reduction piece in particular. I think, I've said many times that's our single greatest threat we face day to day. And so, while we're in the midst of a global calamity, being able to solve our local challenges is fantastic.
Lynn, I was wondering, on the Forest Service funding, could you clarify, is there any match associated with that $500,000?
There is not, John.
Even better.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn, unless anybody else had anything else for her. Gary, I believe you had something, right?
Yeah, Randy? Yeah, I had a couple things. One was just a quick report. Eagle held a webinar on Tuesday of this week to present the draft interim remedial action plan for the Southwide feasibility study. And this was obviously in lieu of a face-to-face public meeting. But Eagle presented portions of it, and then 2 of the consultants with Kennedy Jenkins presented portions of the study. And so the idea is it's out for a 30-day comment period, and to gather comments during that period prior to finalizing the plan. So I have no idea how many people attended. The questions that were presented to Eagle during that was done electronically, so hopefully reached out to the requisite number of people that need to be involved, but we'll see when we get comments back by the end of 30 days. And then, so the one other thing I wanted to report on, I think since we've been sitting here in the meeting, the governor just came out with another executive order, and that this order prohibits water shutoff effective as of March 4th. So anyone that had the water shut off after March 4th, the water service has to be restored, and then all water service going forward cannot be shut off.
I don't think we have that happen a lot anyways.
We've already been kind of following that guideline. And we actually went out with an email about a week ago and emphasizing that to our customers, along with waiving the late fees for the quarter.
Okay, good. Does anybody else have anything? Because it's something at the end of the stuff. You can. I'll see we had one past meeting and several future. And if nobody else has anything, we don't have a closed session. I will adjourn this. I'm not hearing anything. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for calling in and attending.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good job.